3 years, Daniel Lewa. 3 years that we have been getting marble modular buildings. These might be the top 3 Lego Marvel sets of all time. Okay, and it's setting a very interesting precedent because if we don't get one this year, it's going to break a 3-year streak. We're going to rank and rate each of them and find the best one. We're going to rate each one out of 10, as well as rank them 1 through 3.
This is going to be great because these literally are the 3 best Marvel sets. Crazy figs, amazing detailed builds. Most themes wish they could have builds this good. So for a theme that is very rocky from time to time, see a previous video, this is a really consistent line of sets.
We'll rate them at the end 1 through 3, but let's start with chronologically the Daily Bugle. And these are fresh on the top of my mind. I rebuilt all of them recently, and it is just a pleasure rebuilding each one of these modular buildings. None of them are bad. Daily Bugle first came out in 2021 and was mind-blowing. This is one of the this is the biggest set that's not based off of the MCU. Am I wrong about that? Which is pretty crazy. So it is interesting. I was telling Daniel Lewa that one of the best Marvel sets ever has nothing to do with the MCU. Completely comic book based, completely fun. It's interesting though because the Daily Bugle doesn't have one specific look. It doesn't have one iconic look to the building. There's nothing iconic about the building. They just plastered Daily Bugle at the top of a gray skyscraper and just loaded it with Spider-Man references, minifigures, billboards, TV screens all throughout.
For what really was just like a gray skyscraper, it has so much personality, most of it on the inside, but the characters really bring out the personality on the outside, especially with the breaking of the windows and the characters popping out like that and how you can actually build it to display that way. It's just very nice.
That's one thing that this one and the Avengers Tower kind of have in common. They realized it with this set and they expounded upon it with the Sanctum and Avengers Tower of places and opportunities to put your minifigures. This one, they included the rafters on the side, they included the bird spikes in the front. So there is quite a bit of opportunity to display your minifigures, but they made it even better with the system in the Avengers Tower that we'll look at later. But it is highly appreciated. This might have the best minifigures out of all 3 modular buildings, maybe even combined, because there's just absolutely no way they went so above and beyond and included the Punisher, Blade, Black Cat, and the like, all within this Spider-Man set. Very, Spider-Man kind of adjacent characters. You don't think of Punisher as a Spider-Man character or Blade as a Spider-Man character, but they do team up with him. Daredevil does team up with him, and they went beyond the extra mile with the minifigures.
Again, it sets a very dangerous standard when you do something so well like this and knock it out of the park, because then anytime another modular Marvel building comes out, or any Marvel set, it's like, well, where are all the crazy figs? Where are the comic references? Where are the movie references? Because they have shown that they can do it, and they've done it before.
Yeah, 3 rooms. You have the writer's room. The second floor is more of a storage and a reference to the old cartoon floor. And then the top floor is J. Jonah Jameson's office, with half of it being a secretary part of the office. All really cool. Even on the stickers, there's emails from Eddie Brock. There's emails from Peter Parker. It's funny, and it makes rebuilding it so fun. Building it in the first place so fun. But a little bit of the downsides. This is probably the most repetitive out of the 3 modular buildings. All the floors are shaped pretty much the exact same, right? And they all have the exact same outside with the windows. So you're doing like a times 16 for all the window panels around and all those zip ties on the side. So that part does get a little repetitive as a building, but it's so satisfying when it comes together in the end. You stack them on top of each other.
It does seem like one of the big pros of it is that it's a generic building. One of the big cons of it is also that it's a generic building. It's just a bunch of gray with the clear windows, and that's cool and all. But when you take away all of the extra decals on the side and everything, there's not a lot going for it. But that's the point, I think, because this is meant to just be any building in New York City. There have been a ton of different Daily Bugles in the media and comics and the movies and everything, and this is just the amalgamation of all of them, and I think it does that very well.
And it made it more appealing to just the regular city modular people who want a regular looking building. They'll be much more attracted to this than something like the Avengers Tower or maybe even the Sanctum Sanctorum. But let's go ahead and rate this set on a 1 through 10. Honestly, I'll probably have to give the Daily Bugle a 10 out of 10. If this isn't a 10 out of 10 Lego set, it's hard.
No, this is a 10 out of 10. What do you dock it on, right? It accomplishes everything it sets out to do. Yeah, it's $300, but it's also 3,772 pieces with 25 figures, 18 of which are unique. Okay, it's actually $350 now. It was originally $300.
Yeah.
Still, great deal.
Yeah, great. 10 out of 10. Shout out to the designers Adam Grabowski and Mark Stafford. They killed it. But let's go 1 year ahead in time to the Sanctum Sanctorum. Maybe people were disappointed with when this was, the quote-unquote successor to the Daily Bugle. It did line up perfectly with the Multiverse of Madness release, and they got to take advantage of that and put in Multiverse of Madness adjacent minifigures, such as the new Baron Mordo, such as Zombie Strange, such as Evil Strange, and then also just having minifigures from throughout the rest of the Infinity Saga, like when Ebony Maw showed up, like when Spider-Man shows up. This is a big difference because it is a MCU-based building rather than the Daily Bugle, which was a comics-based building.
And that does offer some limitations because you have to get it to match almost exactly what is shown in the movies, which is cool on the one hand because, oh look, it's immediately recognizable. You know exactly what this is when you see it on a shelf. But on the other hand, it's like you have a lot of design constraints. You can't go quite as crazy, perhaps. But for what it is, it still looks very nice.
I feel like this is the number one out of the three as far as Easter eggs go. This one is packed to the limit, and it's so crazy for the Doctor Strange, who back in the day was such an unpopular character until the movies came out. Barely, you ask any casual movie watcher who Doctor Strange is, they wouldn't know who that is. But nowadays, without the span of the MCU and Marvel as a whole, it's just jam-loaded, packed, brimmed corner to corner with references and Easter eggs from everything. It makes it extremely fun to build. The Daily Bugle is a lot more epic than this as far as height, proportion, and minifigures, but I think this one already wins on exterior beauty than the other two. I'm sorry, like the detail on each of these kind of three floors, each floor is unique. Each floor has a different exterior. The middle texture, brickwork, and all that is super cool. So it's not like, I don't think it's that far behind the other modular buildings because it provides a lot of different things that the others don't.
It does lack a lot on the figures. If we're going to say like ranking the figures, this would be maybe like 7 or 8 because you just don't get as many. The ones you do get are actually pretty good and quite a few really good exclusive ones. But the Daily Bugle, like I said, set the bar so high. Yeah. This does look very beautiful on the outside architecturally and Easter egg wise. It's very high, like a 9 or so, or a 10 as far as all the references go.
Yeah, I probably would have to also give it a 9 out of 10 just because I don't think it's quite absolutely perfect. Regarding the minifigures, ones that came with are a little bit lackluster, but the cool thing is now I have recently added a bunch of the mystical, magical Marvel minifigures we've accumulated over time. This is their home base. This is the place where they can be displayed. This is where you can display Werewolf by Night, Ghost Rider, Agatha, Moon Knight, even Punisher can hop in the Midnight Suns here. So it's really cool to have a home base for the mystical side of Marvel. Big shout out Justin Ramsden for designing this one.
I helped Methuselah build this back a couple weeks ago. And it really is quite awesome. It would look a little weird in a city just because the scale is shrunk down a little bit more than some of the other regular size minifig modulars. But that is to say, it is packing a lot of detail in a smaller space.
And then Justin Ramsden and Mark Stafford decide to team up to design the Avengers Tower, which continues the previous year's trend of an MCU-based modular building. This is the set of Lego with the most minifigures in a single set. I think mind-blowing. It is really mind-blowing, the sheer amount of minifigures. We can just talk about minifigures first. It doesn't quite have the range of the Daily Bugle being not tied to any movies, but it is jam-packed. The new Vision, the new Wasp, peak versions of all the OG Avengers characters. When we did our top 100 Marvel characters, most of the core Avengers, their best versions are from this set. Black Widow, Hawkeye, Iron Man suit is awesome, Captain America, Thor. So minifigures, it's not lacking at all.
32 figs, 18 which are unique to this set. I mean, in my opinion, this is the Marvel set to end all Marvel sets. It's absolutely gigantic. It's so iconic. Everyone immediately recognizes what it is. Being able to pose all the figures all around it in all which ways, however you want. It's so cool. It's actually bigger than the Lord of the Rings Barad-dûr set, which is crazy because that one's already also pretty tall. And this one makes that one seem short in comparison. So this is mind-blowing.
The building techniques, it's not repetitive. I won't say whatsoever because there are repetitive parts like with the glass and window parts, but every floor is a different shape, which provides different limitations, the different ways they have to build it. The way that the Technic is kind of holding up the landing platform for the Quinjet is just integrated awesomely. So satisfying to put onto glass transparent parts on top of each other. So satisfying to put another floor on top of the other. It has to be a 10 out of 10. The Easter eggs, I feel like I feel like there's even more Easter eggs in these MCU ones, like this in the Sanctum, rather than the Daily Bugle, because there's just stuff from the movies that they want to reference exactly throughout the entire Infinity Saga. Awesome that they integrated all these little Technic cross-section pieces on the exterior, so you can place your noodle pieces wherever you want and rearrange your minifigures flying around in any way that you would like. Side builds, Leviathan and Quinjet are just could be 10 out of 10 sets by themselves.
It really is fantastic. In a city, it would stand out like crazy. I've seen this integrated into some other people's displays, and it dwarfs anything near it. So that could be a good thing and a bad thing as well. If you want it to be like a real statement piece and have it really stand out, that's awesome. But it could also kind of disrupt a city. But this kind of does a really good job of encapsulating everything from the first three phases of Marvel very well. An almost nostalgic era at this point of the original Avengers.
Just building it for the first time is just like a huge refresher and deep dive throughout the entirety of the Infinity Saga. You're like, oh, that happened. That's just spectacular. So I would give this a 10 out of 10, and I would say it's my personal favorite Lego Marvel set ever. And Daniel Label will give it a
10 also. 10 out of 10.
I would give it an 11 out of 10 because it's so peak. Did a poll on Instagram after I rebuilt these three Marvel modulars, and it looks like the final results are Daily Bugle wins with 48% of the vote, Avengers Tower is second with 35% of the vote, and Sanctum is last. Kind of to be expected, 16% of the vote. Still got some votes though. So it looks like a little bit of our Lego audience on Instagram is preferring the Daily Bugle over the Avengers Tower. But between those two, Daniel Lewa, which one do you like more? If you could have your own copy, if you could display your own, which one of those would you prefer?
Oh, it depends, because I'm not a Marvel collector like you. So if I were to have one, I would probably want one that I could put with some of the other regular modulars. So Daily Bugle. That being said, if I wanted a Marvel set to end all Marvel sets, I would get Avengers Tower. So I understand why people would perhaps prefer the Daily Bugle over the Avengers Tower. There's a certain simplistic charm about it in a way, but I think Avengers Tower goes so hard, so I'll still say it's my favorite.
I think Avengers Tower's got to win as far as the building build. Daily Bugle wins on the mini figures, and Sanctum Sanctorum wins on building beauty and texture on the outside, as well as just the Easter eggs. I think honestly it might have more than it has Monkey Kid staff in this set. So but really I think that really does have to be, we do have really cool Lego Marvel sets, but I think those three really have to be the top three, and it will be very interesting to see this year if the trend is going to continue or not. All three of these have been complete modular 360 buildings of different varying sizes and shapes.
It's a perfect trilogy, so let's not get our hopes up for what's coming in the future. We don't know for sure. That doesn't have to, whatever it is, won't taint at least like this perfect trilogy of Marvel modulars.
Well, if they made it this far in the video, I guess they get a bonus discussion anyway, because I just wanted to ask Daniel Lewa really briefly, do you think they could legitimately do a set like the Fantastic Four Baxter building or the Xavier School for Gifted Youngsters in a similar modular fashion? Because those are the first two buildings that you think, okay, what could they have next? What could they do next? Those are probably the first two that you would think of, right?
Yeah, the problem is when thinking of Marvel buildings, a lot of them happen in New York City. We got these three, they're all right in the heart of things in New York City somewhere, so it makes sense for them to be modulars, put them up next to a bunch of other buildings. That could also work very well for something like Oscorp, for the Fantastic Four Baxter building. Also, they're all right in the city. The one that gets really tricky for is Xavier School for Gifted Youngsters, the X Mansion. If they decide to do that, and let's hope they do, then it will be very tricky if they want to try to integrate it into a city style layout or have it be modular. I think best case scenario, it is still on modular base plates, but it would look good, on its own, not in a city, or as part of city if you want it to attach and display with your other modulars. But I have a feeling it's not going to be if they do it.
You're breaking my heart right now. I mean, honestly, I look at something like the Hidden Side School a little bit, where it's kind of squished up side to side, and I think they could take some creative liberties like they did with the Sanctum Sanctorum. It doesn't look like exact proportions that it is within the movies. Take some liberties, because there is no one exact way to do the X-Mansion if they were to do it soon, because it's not in the MCU, so it'd have to be based on the comics. I think it's definitely doable, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. I was talking to Daniel Lewa earlier. He said, is the Baxter building iconic enough for it to, move units and to actually sell? And I was like, that's true. My argument against that would be there was a huge chunk of time where Doctor Strange was nobody and everybody knew who Fantastic Four was. But just in today's current meta and time, people know Doctor Strange's house from these popular movies. So I don't know. I think it could be done. I mean, like I said, the Daily Bugle is not an iconic building itself. It's just the cool, crazy figures they put in there. So as long as they have the Fantastic Four on there, as long as they make the Fantastic Four logo prevalent, I think that would be a great Marvel modular building as well.
Agreed. I still don't agree though that they have the cultural relevance yet, or at least at this time, but hopefully they can do it one day.
So what kind of Marvel modular building would you like to see in the future? Should this trend continue every year after year after year, regardless? If we run out of buildings, we're gonna do a modular Aunt May's house. Once we run out of ideas, it doesn't matter. Modular Asgard. We don't care.
Okay.
Give us these peak Legos because this is the top 3. So yeah, this may be the year of disappointment or of continuing the awesome trend. What do you think? Special shout out to our special channel members, which will be Oliver J. Ames, the Ginger Lender, I'm Lidme, Dr. Dan, PhD, Richie Rage, and MC Goat, which are all members on the channel. Please go ahead and super smash that subscribe button, go to desktop, click the member join button, and become a member on the channel. And you'll get special shout outs, emotes, everything to support Daniel Lewa and I. We just really appreciate it. Daniel Lewa.
Thanks for watching. You guys are all real ones if you've made it this far. Comment Duraludon in the comments below, the building Pokemon.
Bye for now.
Peace out.